Am I the asshole for telling my housemate she can't give me unsolicited advice? I, 27 female, have a strange living situation. I live with a family, Chris, 65 male, Danielle, 59 female, and their daughter, and do household chores in exchange for rent. I've lived here for 19 months. It's mostly smooth sailing. I work full-time and am applying to law school. Danielle has some issues with boundaries. She doesn't understand why she can't enter my room without permission, for example, and I know that it's both due to age differences and the fact that they allow me to live in their house for free. I have to be very careful when enforcing boundaries. Yesterday, I made dinner for everyone after a full day of chores. Around 10 p.m., as I was finishing the dishes, Danielle told me that I needed to steam clean the carpet in the living room because the cats had peed all over it. I did, and as I was putting the steam cleaner away, Danielle entered and said that she wanted me to do another room. Because it was 10:30 at this point, and I still wanted to work on an application before bed, I politely but firmly said, "I'm not going to do that." I probably should have said, "I'll do it tomorrow," but I was exhausted, so I just said no. I put the machine away, submitted my application, and went to bed. Tonight, as I was finishing up my meal prep for the week, Danielle cornered me in the kitchen and said, "I don't want to fight about this, but I wanted to mention something. Last night, when you told me that you weren't going to clean the other room, I found it rude. You should be careful when you say things like that at work so that you don't get fired." I was floored. I snapped, "Danielle, you haven't had a job since before I was born. You don't get to give me advice about how to act in the workplace." Danielle rolled her eyes and huffed, "See, I didn't want to fight about this," and walked out of the room. I called after her, "Then maybe don't bring it up?" And Danielle hasn't spoken to me since, and I don't know what's coming. For context, Danielle has only had one job in her whole life, from age 22 to age 25. After that, she quit to raise kids. I grew up very poor. I've been working since I was 14 and supporting myself since I turned 18. They offered to start our arrangement in 2023 because they needed help around the house and I was struggling financially. As for Danielle's work advice, I currently work as a regional manager at a small firm. Not only is her advice outdated, but I can't take it. I'm a people manager. A lot of my day-to-day job involves being polite but unyielding. I think she was frustrated by my setting a boundary, and that's why she brought it up. I know part of my frustration is that I feel powerless to protest most of the time. I will be moving out in August of this year when I go to law school, hopefully, and my goal is to just make it until then. I'm also really frustrated that Danielle felt like she could say whatever she wanted and then walk away as if I had no right to feel anything. Am I the asshole for what I said? In the comments, someone asks, "Info. Do you have a rental agreement in writing? Work exchange needs to be clearly defined, including but not limited to hours, availability, no contact places and times, tasks, etc. Someone who's demanding you steam clean 2 rooms at 10:30 p.m. is highly suspect. Chores is too often seen as women's work, aka undervalued and unpaid invisible labor. However, invisible labor done by women is incredibly expensive both in cost and time, aka you may well be doing more than would cover the cost of your rent. Also, I'm inferring from your post that you're most likely downplaying their requests." And OP says, "There is no agreement in writing. I've tried to bring this up on previous occasions because of Danielle's difficulty with boundaries and the sheer amount of work that I do, but it's not taken well. Danielle and Chris are very insistent that I am not their tenant and that they are not my landlords. I am their guest, quote-unquote. Danielle is also very insistent that she does not want to be called my boss or supervisor in any capacity. To answer other comments here as well, my current position does not pay enough for me to live on my own. I realize that the situation is probably predatory, but because there are only 8 months left of this, I plan to just stick it out. It has saved me a lot of money, and I'm thankful for that." The top commenter says, "You're the asshole. Not for saying no, but for how you said it. You were not polite. Also, Danielle is not your housemate. She and her husband are your landlords/bosses. You may not be paying rent, but you are paying by being live-in help. So when you told Danielle, I won't be doing that, instead of I'll do it tomorrow, you were rude to your boss. Also, her advice wasn't outdated. If you spoke to your supervisor at your job that way, there would definitely be a follow-up conversation about your choice of words. And OP, getting downvoted, replies, Danielle and Chris are very insistent that I am not their employee or tenant, and that they are not my bosses or landlords. I am their guest, and they are doing this out of the goodness of their own hearts. Another commenter that also got downvoted says, definitely not the asshole, and good for you. May I ask how you came to live with this family though? Are they related? And why are you bothering with all of this weird-ass shit and her bossing you around? OP says, they're actually my best friend's parents. He suggested the arrangement because he knew that I needed help. When I moved in, I was a teacher and struggling to afford a studio apartment. Since I moved in, I changed careers and decided that I wanted to pursue law school. I took the LSAT or LSAT 3 times last year on top of all of this. I can count on one hand the number of times that I've refused a request. I've bleached the showers after midnight, rose at 5 a.m. to make requested meals before work, and other things like that without protesting. I see this as an opportunity to make my life better in the long term while surviving short term. I just wanted to say no this time because, truthfully, I physically couldn't handle fulfilling the request. Danielle was insistent that it had to be done immediately because they wanted to go to bed at 11 p.m., but I just couldn't do it. Insane that OP's getting voted you're the asshole for this one. Are people just okay with slave labor? What is going on? She's being forced to get up at 5 a.m. to stay awake until 11 p.m. to be at the behest of Danielle and Chris? This is just genuinely indentured servitude. What does Danielle do? She's got no job. Doesn't sound like the kids are living at home anymore. Danielle just sits on her ass all day and is just a complete asshole to OP. Her job is to micromanage the hired help, it seems like. The unpaid help. It really doesn't sound like you have much of a choice here until you save up enough money, OP, to move out, which I guess is a symptom of this day and age. It's unfortunate that this is happening, and my heart, completely goes out to you for that one. All I can say is, stick it out, do what you can do until you're financially well off to get out of this situation, and then, put this behind you. You're not the asshole here. They're absolutely taking advantage of you, and then they're telling you that you're an asshole for pushing back even in the slightest. And now, onto a mini update in the comments that was posted the next day. I was voted the asshole, which I understand. What I do adds up to about $2,000 per month if you go by the standard of $20 per hour or about 100 hours per month. Most of those hours are concentrated on weekends and 2 to 3 evenings per week. I make enough food that there are leftovers so I can have a couple of nights off. Included in those hours is a lot of care for their adult daughter who lives with us and is disabled. If I babysit the house pets while the housemates go on vacation, which happens a lot, I charge $20 per day stipend. We have 2 dogs, 3 cats, a gecko, and some fish. One of the cats is mine, and this is why I cleaned the carpet without protest, because it's just as likely the piss was his as any of the other cats. I've said no to requests 3 times in 19 months, and each time has been met with pushback like this. All 3 were due to the time of night that they were asked. A lot have called this a form of modern-day slavery, and I see where you're coming from. I've been fine with the situation remaining largely undefined, because even when I protest at chores, I haven't been threatened with eviction. I entered into this situation at a time when I was overwhelmed and desperate. It might be predatory, but it was the best opportunity that I had. I could have protected myself better going in. As to why I stay in, it's because there's an end date in sight, and it will set me up well to keep funneling money into savings for the next few months. If I were evicted, it would suck, but I would be fine. It's not ideal, but it works. I recognize that I should have worded my response better than I did at the time, However, I do want to push back on the idea that I have to do everything they say because they own the house. If a boss demands overtime from me that's not previously agreed on, I am allowed to say no. And I have done it many times without affecting my employment whatsoever. In fact, my current boss, who I've done this with the most, often using the same wording as here, wrote me an excellent letter of recommendation for law school. Times have changed since the 1980s, and saying no to bad demands is becoming more and more acceptable. What she meant when she said, "You should be careful when you say things like that at work," was that I shouldn't be assertive at all in a situation where I am a subordinate, which I very much think is outdated advice. I was not invalidating the difficult work of raising a family that Danielle did. I would not dream of offering someone else parenting advice because I haven't been in their shoes. Hypothetically, if the last time I had raised a child was 30 years ago, I also wouldn't give advice on raising a kid in the iPad generation. Danielle should not be doing the same to me about work. She's not my professional boss. She has never worked in my field. She knows that she is not my landlady either, because if she were, there would be a whole lot of rules that she would need to respect that she doesn't want to, such as entering my room without notice. Again, because I'm getting some benefit from the situation, I don't and won't threaten legal action here because I have enough documentation to protect myself. In addition, Chris, Danielle, and I all have personal stakes involved in this going well. We have a ton of mutual friends, one of whom is their son and my best friend. Danielle and Chris have some chronic illnesses that make housework hard for them, so they are also getting a lot out of this situation. I plan to apologize and smooth things over. I will follow much of the advice mentioned here about protecting myself better moving forward. Perhaps naively, I hope this will end well. Danielle and I actually get along very well most of the time. We don't hate each other by any means, and we both ultimately want to see the other happy. That's why this has worked for so long. To everyone who says this situation proves that I don't have what it takes to be a lawyer, don't worry, you'll probably never be my client. And now, onto the update 2 days later. First, as an aside, a lot of the comments here missed the point. Danielle was not angry with me for refusing to do an additional chore at 10:30 p.m. That was not the issue. Even by the most generous of understandings, demanding additional overtime work at the end of a 14-hour shift is unreasonable, and she knew that. During our follow-up discussion, she added a detail that I had totally forgotten about. The second room in question has a large potted fiddle leaf fig tree in it, and in order to steam clean the additional room, the tree needs to be moved. Neither she or I were able to move it after multiple attempts, so at that point I said, "Until Chris and I can figure out a way to move this, the steam cleaning will have to wait. I know you want it done tonight, but I will not be doing that." Very important context that I missed adding when I was angry. The issue in question was the exchange the next day. As to how I responded the second day when she came to confront me on my wording, for that, I understand now that I was absolutely the asshole. As one of my close friends put it to me, those are inside thoughts. My context about her work history was also unnecessary and irrelevant. Last night, I approached Danielle and opened the conversation with a profuse apology. No qualifiers, no protests, just that I was rude during our kitchen conversation and that I needed to apologize. She, in turn, immediately apologized for her incredibly poor introduction to the follow-up conversation and for cornering me in the kitchen while I was otherwise occupied instead of meeting with me at a more neutral time. Chris then joined us, and we had an extensive conversation. During the conversation, I asked them to define how they view our arrangement. They were immediately very clear that they don't see me as a tenant, employee, or servant. I pointed out that if that's how they want to view things, then I need to be free to say no to extra requests. They were receptive to this. I also pointed out that in our state, I could be considered a tenant or a live-in domestic worker, but due to the length of time that I've resided here and the conditions in place, I'm definitely not considered just a guest. They did get offended that I see our relationship as fundamentally a transaction, which I found kind of funny, because while they have the freedom to frame it in their minds as, we're helping this person out and she's helping us out, it's wise for me to see it differently. I do have obligations to them, and my life has substantially larger implications should this not work out. In the end, they agreed that because they aren't landlords and I am not their employee, in their minds, I should be receiving more freedom than I've been given. Chris and Danielle have chronic illnesses that make most of the work I do very difficult for them, including a lot of the care that I provide for their adult daughter who lives with us. We then outlined again exactly what my responsibilities are and what they're not. And finally, to my surprise, they apologized for previous invasions of privacy and agreed that we would put a lock on my room door. It is an interior lock, so I can only lock it when I'm gone, but I'm fine with the progress. I was never threatened with eviction or anything like that, as people can be emotionally mature enough to talk through issues instead of immediately pulling a metaphorical trigger, which is what happened here. After the conversation, I typed out a long email detailing the terms of my living here as it currently stands and had them send a confirmation in reply. While it's not officially a lease, it's something in writing outlining responsibilities that was agreed to by all parties. We agreed that my monthly hours would be reduced to 80 instead of the roughly 100 that I've been doing. If the value of that is calculated according to the federal minimum wage, that's a value of $580 every 4 weeks, which is more than most rooms for rent are in our area. Of course, the labor I do is somewhat skilled and has a market value of at least double, but I use the federal minimum wage for the sake of argument. I also established that the latest I would be available for housework is 9:30 p.m., barring some form of emergency. And if a task absolutely requires going past that time, I will be taking that time back on a different day. I know that I will laugh at this in the contract class in the future, but for now, I'm fine with what it is. Like I said in a comment, it's not ideal, but it works. I'm not in a position where I desperately need this anymore, but I'm going to stay here until August, because being able to funnel what otherwise would be paid in rent into savings is doing wonders to set me up for the future. To everyone that commented something along the lines of, you have to do everything she says, or you're the help, or you're entitled, I encourage you to think about that perspective more. Employees, household help, and any people in a subordinate position are still very much an individual and deserving of basic respect to their space, their time, and their person. No laws, no matter how extensive, take those basic rights away. Also, if you said that it was my fault for being in the situation in the first place, kick rocks. We're all working through our own situations where we pick the best option available, even if it isn't perfect. That's not weakness or stupidity, that is life. And that's the end of that post, so I just want to say that's an incredibly rough situation to be in. At least she recognizes that she's been taken advantage of and is taking the steps required to do something about that. Because being a lawyer, you'd hope that she has the self-awareness to protect herself. Though, some things were left out that she mentioned, like, we would put a lock on my room door. It's an interior lock, so I can't lock it while I'm gone. What's that all about? Are you not allowed to have, privacy at all in the room that you're staying in? Yeah, it's free, who cares, but you deserve privacy. At least have a camera in there or something. What's going on? And also, what's going on with everyone saying that you're the asshole for this? I really doubt these people that are saying this would respond 100% politely and perfectly if they're being forced to steam clean cat piss at 10:30 p.m. after working for hours that day. You do a 14-hour day and then go be yelled at 10:30 at night to go steam clean cat piss, knowing they're going to ask you to be up at 5 a.m. to meal prep for them. I'm sure everyone's going to be so happy in that situation. Anyway, thanks for the story, OP. Glad that it's working out for you. Hope it continues to work out. Our next post is by user Melody, and it's titled, My boyfriend's mother hates me, and I don't know what I've done. So my boyfriend's mum seems to hate me, and it's been really hard to deal with. I'm 22, and my boyfriend is 26. We've been together for 9 months, and I moved into his apartment after 3 months of dating. His parents live in a different house, just 30 minutes away from his apartment. His mum visits often, but whenever she does, she completely ignores me or barely talks to me. I've tried to be nice and friendly, but she only gives me one-word answers or acts cold. Today I made spaghetti from scratch, and my boyfriend loved it. Even his dad said that it was good, but his mum refused to eat it. When they asked her to at least try it, she got angry. I told them it's fine and not to force her, but it still hurts. She also acts like the apartment is hers, going through every room, including our closet and drawers. I know she's his mum, but I wish she would respect our privacy. She also complains that I spend too much of my boyfriend's money on dresses and heels, which isn't true because I pay for my own things. When I bring up how she treats me to my boyfriend, he just brushes it off, saying, "Don't mind her, she's always like that." When I asked him, "Did your mum treat your ex the same way?" he says he doesn't want to talk about his past relationships. My boyfriend talks a lot about having kids with me, but I don't think I can handle being a part of this family. I'm afraid if we have a baby, his mother will treat our child badly too. Should I end things with him? He's a really good, funny, and gentle guy, but his mum is a big problem. In the comments, Rich Caterpillar 991 says, "The biggest problem here is that your boyfriend won't stand up for you and tell his mum to treat you with respect. Also, does he stand up for you when she claims that you're spending all of his money, even though it's not true? Also, he needs to tell her to stop snooping around your house." OP says, "He does tell his mum sometimes not to speak to me that way, but then she stops talking to him, and he feels like he has to make her happy again. Whenever she opens our closet and sees my dresses and skirts, she complains that I spend a lot of her son's money. When I tell her that I bought these clothes myself and that some were from promotions, she just rolls her eyes." Clark Shoe 1 says, "That pretty much means that he's willing to allow his mother to belittle you just so he can keep the peace." And Good Grief says, "Well, to be frank, this relationship is doomed. He doesn't care about you enough to stand up to you, and even if you threaten to break up and then he decides to actually address the issue, it doesn't matter. Because why did he wait for an ultimatum? Why did he even wait until you brought it up instead of being proactive? He should have stopped his mother when he saw her acting this way. His mother going to her adult son's apartment while he's in a relationship and snooping is not normal. Her being this cold towards you also is not normal. Maybe she's a boy mom and you need to leave ASAP. Just because her being disrespectful is normal doesn't mean you need to accept being disrespected. And bringing up having kids when you've only been together for 9 months is wild. If you're going to say the relationship is great otherwise, I can guarantee you it is not. He's a mama's boy. He will also choose her instead of you. You like him. Maybe you will even grow to love him, but he will never match energy with you." Yeah, I agree with all of that. You can stay in the relationship with him if you'd like to, OP, but I think you know that you'll be playing second fiddle to his mother all the time. Unless he does show genuine change and he does set hard boundaries that he is not going to rescind, I don't believe that the relationship is going to be headed to a healthy place. It seems like she has intertwined herself into, at least his side of the relationship, but he is normalizing her being disrespectful towards you and continuing to allow it to happen. It's only when you did an ultimatum that he's like, okay, maybe I'll do something about it. No. Like they said, like Good Grief said, no. He should have been proactive. Why was he not proactive? Do you trust this man going forward? Because I don't. I don't trust him. And I don't think you should either. And now, on to the update, 1 day later. So, like many of you suggested, I searched up enmeshment and watched a few YouTube videos that some of you DM'd me about mummy's boys. It was eye-opening and disgusting. I can't imagine a future where his mother constantly intervenes in our lives. Like some of you pointed out, there's a chance that she could turn my future children against me if things stay the same. I want my kids to grow up in a happy and healthy environment. After reading hundreds of your responses, I decided to talk to my boyfriend. I showed him this post, like a few of you suggested, and let him read the comments. He only got through one or two before getting defensive and angry. He said I was being too overdramatic and insisted that his mum wasn't doing anything wrong. He even said that she only comes over because she cares about him, and even accused me of being jealous because my parents aren't as involved in my life as his mum is in his. Jesus Christ. What a catch, OP. He sounds like the one. I got upset and told him, just because she's your mum doesn't mean she can come into our home, open our closets and drawers, and invade our privacy. How would you feel if I brought my parents here and let them go through your laptop, phone, and closets? He got even more irritated and accused me of intentionally trying to piss him off. Then he sarcastically told me to go ahead and bring my family over to do the same thing. I also brought up how his mum constantly judges my clothes and accuses me of spending his money, even though I pay for my own things. I said, you don't even bother to defend me or correct her. And he said, these aren't serious issues. You're just making them into a big deal because you want to fight with me. Are you on your period or something? I got mad and said, are you serious right now? Just because I'm upset about your mum's behavior, you're assuming I'm on my period. Is that really how little you think of me? He laughed like a fake laugh and said, calm down. I'll make you your favorite Missy Carbonara. He was so irritating, and I told him, I wonder what bad things your mum says about me to other people. Who knows? Maybe you even join in with her to mock me just because I don't understand your language. He's Italian. He didn't even respond and just walked into the kitchen. I followed him and said, you don't even care to see my side of things. If your mum doesn't change her behavior, I'm breaking up with you. I deserve better than this, and I can find another man who is much better than you. And that's when he stopped and came to grab my arm and told me to stop talking about breaking up. He said he loves me too much to let me go, and even said that his mother loves me too, but she's not showing it, which honestly felt like a joke considering how she's treated me. He promised to talk to his mum and set boundaries, and make sure she respects me going forward. He also said that he wouldn't allow her to go through our room again. For now, I'm staying with him, but if he doesn't follow through, I will seriously end things. Edit. I've been getting bombarded with DMs saying that I'm making a mistake and that I'm foolish for staying. So I just want to say, sorry. When he said he loves me too much to let me go, and he even said some other sweet words to me and kissed me, I genuinely thought that he meant it in a loving way and didn't see it as a red flag. But after reading all of your responses, I realize now that I was blind to it. I'll be leaving him when he goes to work. In the comments, Terrible Person says, I second dip now. Yeah, I mean, there's red flags all over the place without even bringing in the mum. He grabbed her arm, told her not to talk about breaking up, told her he loves her too much to let her go. That on top of the gaslighting, I'll go as far and say that OP is already in an abusive relationship and needs to get out of there. He dismissed her emotions and concerns with, are you on your period? He doesn't even respect OP. Lady, he grabbed your arm. I'm saying this as a man, grab your shit and leave. Do not announce shit until you are out. Beautiful Pizza says, the whole he loves her too much to let her go is what got me. That's terrifying. And OP replies, at that moment when he said that, I thought he really did love me and didn't see it as a red flag. But now, reading all of your responses saying it is a red flag and terrifying, it's making me realize how stupid I was. And Mythos says, my ex told me this statement, and when I did leave, he beat me so badly that I miscarried. Be gone before he comes home, text him that you were done, and then block him, his mum, and his friends and family, and never go back. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit scared for OP here because it seems as though she is blind to all of the signs of escalation and the fact that domestic violence is very much on the way. He already grabbed her arm. Like, how long is it until he is shoving her into walls, pushing her around, and throwing her around the place? We have seen too many examples of that, and people need to recognize the signs of an abuser, even if it is someone they've been with for years. I really do hope that she gets away safely. This sounds like an incredibly scary situation, and, thoughts and prayers Go out to you, absolutely OP. I hope all goes well. Thank you for the story. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.